The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Plain white, county seal in the corner, nothing alarming about it at first glance. I was standing in my kitchen, still in my work clothes, tie loosened, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. My wife Ellen was at the stove, reheating leftovers. The smell of garlic and oregano filled the room. I opened it. Property transfer notification, county recorder's office. The words didn't register at first. I read them twice, then 3 times, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. The property address was my mother's house. The house I'd bought outright 8 months ago, after 40 years of her making mortgage payments. The house I'd transferred into my name to protect it from potential medical debt, from predatory reverse mortgages, from every nightmare scenario I'd spent sleepless nights worrying about. Transferred to Michael Preston, my son. Transfer date, April 15th, my birthday. I stood there, the paper trembling in my hand, and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not panic, not yet, just a slowly dawning awareness that something had gone very, very wrong. "What is it?" Ellen asked, glancing over her shoulder. I couldn't answer. I was staring at the signature line. My signature. Perfect. Every loop, every angle, every quirk of my handwriting captured with absolute precision. I'd signed my name thousands of times in my life. I knew every stroke. This wasn't close. This wasn't similar. This was identical. "Tom?" Ellen turned off the stove and came closer. "You're scaring me." I handed her the notice without a word. She read it quickly, her expression shifting from confusion to concern to something harder, sharper. Ellen had been a paralegal before we had kids. She knew what she was looking at. "This has to be a mistake," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Look at the signature." She did. Her mouth tightened into a thin line. "When were you at the county office on April 15th?" she asked. "I wasn't. I was at work all day. Then we went to dinner. You were there." "I know I was there." She set the notice on the counter, smoothing it out with careful precision. "So either the county made an enormous error, or someone forged your signature well enough to fool their verification process." The way she said it, calm and methodical, somehow made it worse. This wasn't hysteria. This was reality, settling in like frost. I picked up my phone and dialed the county recorder's office. It was 6:47 p.m. They'd be closed. The automated message confirmed it, cheerful and unhelpful. Office hours 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. "I'll go down there tomorrow morning," I said. Ellen nodded. She was still staring at the notice, her finger tracing the signature line. "Tom," she said quietly, "this is professional. This isn't some amateur forgery. Someone practiced this." I knew. God help me, I already knew. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through possibilities. Some stranger had stolen my identity. A county employee had made a catastrophic error. The notice itself was fake, some elaborate phishing scheme. But I kept coming back to that signature, and I kept coming back to the date, April 15th, my birthday. The day Ellen and I had gone to Antonio's for dinner, the Italian place we'd been going to for 20 years. Michael had called that morning to wish me happy birthday. His voice had been normal, warm even. We'd talked about the Phillies game, about his daughter's soccer tournament, about nothing important. Had he been standing in the county recorder's office while we talked? At 3 a.m. I got up and went to my home office. I pulled out the file folder where I kept all the documents related to Mom's house. The original deed transfer from 8 months ago was there, my real signature at the bottom. I laid the county notice next to it. Perfect match. Someone had either traced my signature with inhuman precision or had access to the original document to practice from. Either way, this wasn't random. This wasn't opportunistic. This was planned. I made coffee and sat at my desk until the sun came up, watching the folder like it might suddenly explain itself. Ellen found me there at 6:30, still in my pajamas, surrounded by papers. "You didn't sleep," she said. Not a question. Couldn't. She kissed the top of my head and squeezed my shoulder. "We'll fix this. It's probably just paperwork." I wanted to believe her. I really did. The county recorder's office opened at 8. I was there at 7:52, waiting outside the door like a man possessed. The clerk who unlocked it gave me a suspicious look, but I didn't care. I followed her inside, the notice clutched in my hand. "I need to speak to someone about a property transfer," I said. She directed me to a desk where a woman in her 50s sat, already looking tired despite the early hour. Her nameplate read, Janet Kowalski. She had the expression of someone who'd heard every complaint, seen every crisis, and stopped being impressed years ago. "How can I help you?" she asked. I slid the notice across her desk. "This says my property was transferred to my son. I didn't authorize this transfer." Janet picked up the notice, scanned it, then turned to her computer. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. "Property located at 847 Maple Street?" she asked. "Yes." More typing. She frowned slightly, leaning closer to her screen. "The transfer was recorded on April 15th at 2:17 p.m. The deed was notarized by Rebecca Mills, commission number 447382. Your signature was verified against county records." "I wasn't here on April 15th. That's not my signature." Janet looked at me with the patient expression of someone who'd heard this before. "Sir, our verification process is quite thorough. If there was a discrepancy, it would have been flagged." "Then your process failed," I said, keeping my voice level. "Because I did not sign that document." She sighed and pulled up another screen. "Let me see the signature capture." She turned her monitor slightly so I could see. There it was, digitized and official. My signature. Perfect. "That's a forgery," I said. "Sir, forgery is a serious accusation. Do you have proof you were somewhere else on April 15th? "I was at work. I can provide testimony, time cards, security footage." Janet made a note. "You'll need to file a formal dispute. That process can take 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days? Someone stole my property. If the transfer was fraudulent, it will be corrected. But we need to follow procedure." She pulled a form from her desk drawer and handed it to me. "Fill this out completely. Include any evidence you have. We'll investigate." I took the form, my hands shaking with frustration. Who submitted the transfer? Who physically brought the documents here? Janet consulted her screen again. "The filing was submitted by Michael Preston. He provided proper identification and all required documentation." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "My son was here." "Yes, sir. Is there a problem with that?" 1,000 problems, 1,000 questions, but I just shook my head and took the form. "Thank you for your time," I managed. I walked out of that office in a daze. Michael had been here. Michael had submitted the paperwork. Michael had watched them process it, verify it, record it. My son had stolen my mother's house. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. My phone rang. Ellen. "How did it go?" she asked. Michael filed the paperwork himself. Silence on the other end. Then, softly, "Come home." I drove back on autopilot, my mind racing. Michael was 32 years old. He had a good job as an IT manager, a nice house in the suburbs, a wife and daughter. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. Why would he do this? Ellen was waiting when I got home. She'd made more coffee, set out the paperwork on the kitchen table like we were preparing for battle. "Tell me everything they said." I did, every word, every detail. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker. "He was there in person," she said when I finished. "He used his real ID. He didn't try to hide." "Because he didn't think he needed to," I said. "He thought I'd just accept it." Or he thought you wouldn't find out until it was too late to matter. I looked at the dispute form Janet had given me. 60 to 90 days. 3 months of investigation while Michael had legal ownership of a property worth nearly $400,000. "We need a lawyer," Ellen said. "We need to understand why he did this first." She gave me a look that said I was being naive, but she didn't argue. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and started searching for real estate attorneys. I picked up my phone and stared at Michael's number in my contacts. My thumb hovered over the call button. What would I even say? Before I could decide, the phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen. Ellen and I looked at each other. I answered. "Hey." "Dad." "Hey." His voice was casual, friendly. "Just checking in. How's Mom doing?" The question was so normal, so innocuous, that for a moment I wondered if I'd imagined the entire morning. But the county notice was right there on the table, undeniable. "She's fine," I said carefully. "How's Amy? How's Sophie?" "They're great. Sophie scored 2 goals in her game Saturday. Amy's talking about signing her up for travel league." "That's wonderful." A pause. I could hear traffic in the background. He was in his car, probably driving to work. "Listen, Dad, I wanted to talk to you about something. About Mom's house." My grip tightened on the phone. "What about it?" "Well, I've been thinking, you've got a lot on your plate, and managing another property is a hassle. I was wondering if maybe I could take over some of that burden. You know, help out." The audacity of it. The sheer, breathtaking audacity. "That's thoughtful of you," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "But I've got it handled." I know. But I've been looking into property management, and there are some tax advantages to having it in a younger person's name. Estate planning stuff. I could send you some articles about it." Estate planning. He was actually trying to sell me on the idea of giving him the house he'd already stolen. "I'll think about it," I said. "Great. Maybe we can grab lunch this week and talk it through?" "Sure, I'll check my schedule." We said goodbye. I set the phone down gently, afraid that if I wasn't careful, I'd throw it across the room. Ellen was staring at me. "He actually called to suggest you give him the house. To help me out, because he's such a thoughtful son. He doesn't know you know. Not yet." She leaned back in her chair, her mind clearly working. "He's testing you, seeing if you'll agree willingly before you find out what he's done. Or he's building a cover story. If I agree, he can claim I was confused about when the transfer happened." Ellen nodded slowly. "Either way, he's not expecting resistance." I looked at the dispute form again. 60 to 90 days. But something about that timeline bothered me. If Michael was this confident, this prepared, there had to be more to it. "I need to know how he did it," I said. "The signature is perfect. Too perfect." Which means he either practiced or he had help. Or both. Ellen opened a new browser tab and started typing. "There are forensic document examiners, people who can analyze forgeries, but they're expensive, and I don't know if their findings would even be admissible in the county's dispute process. We'll deal with that later. Right now, I need to understand the mechanics. How did he copy my signature that precisely?" She was quiet for a moment, then turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was an article about signature forgery techniques, tracing, light tables, digital manipulation. If he had access to an original document with your signature, he could scan it, print it onto the county forms, then trace over it with pen, she said. With practice, it would be nearly undetectable. He'd need the original deed transfer. We both thought about that. The original was in my home office, in a locked file cabinet, in a house where Michael had been countless times, family dinners, holidays, babysitting Sophie while Amy was at appointments, times when I was out of the house and Ellen was distracted. "Check the file," Ellen said quietly. I went to my office, my heart pounding. The file cabinet was still locked. I opened it with the key I kept in my desk drawer. The folder was there, exactly where I'd left it. But when I pulled out the original deed transfer, I noticed something. A faint line along one edge, like it had been copied on a flatbed scanner. The kind of line you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. He'd copied it, right here in my house, probably months ago. I brought the document back to the kitchen and showed Ellen the line. "He planned this," she said. "This wasn't impulsive. No, this was calculated." The realization settled over us like a weight. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. My son had deliberately, methodically stolen my mother's house, and he'd done it on my birthday. That detail kept nagging at me. Why my birthday? Was it just coincidence, or was there something more? "Ellen," I said slowly, "what were we doing on April 15th, besides dinner?" She thought back. "You were at work. I was home. Michael called you in the morning." "What time?" "Around 8, I think. You were getting ready for work." 8 in the morning. The county office opened at 8. If Michael had called me first thing, he'd have known I was nowhere near the recorder's office. He'd have known it was safe. "He used me as an alibi," I said. "The phone call established I was somewhere else, doing something normal. If anyone ever questioned the timing, he could say, 'We talked that morning. Everything was fine. I must have gone to the office later.' Except you didn't. Except I didn't." Ellen closed her laptop and looked at me. "What are you going to do?" It was the question I'd been avoiding. What was I going to do? Confront Michael? File the dispute and wait 3 months? Get lawyers involved or something else? I thought about my mother, 78 years old, living in that house with no idea her grandson had stolen it out from under her. I thought about 40 years of mortgage payments, of sacrifices, of building equity one painful month at a time. I thought about why I'd put the house in my name in the first place, to protect her, to make sure she'd always have a home. And Michael had taken it. "I'm going to get it back," I said. "How?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out." Ellen reached across the table and took my hand. "We'll figure it out." That night, I started a notebook. Every detail I could remember about the transfer, about Michael's behavior, about anything that might be relevant. Times, dates, phone calls, visits. I wrote down everything. The last entry I made before bed was a question. Why now? Michael had access to my files for years. He could have done this any time. Why wait until now? What changed? I lay awake again that night, staring at the ceiling, turning the question over and over in my mind. What if the house was just the beginning? The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls and paperwork. Ellen found an attorney, David Bennett, a real estate specialist with 30 years of experience and a reputation for being thorough. His office was downtown, in one of those old buildings with marble floors and wood paneling that suggested both competence and expense. We met with him on Thursday afternoon. His consultation fee was $300 for 2 hours, worth every penny if he could help us make sense of this nightmare. Bennett was in his early 60s, with gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He reviewed the county notice, the original deed transfer, and the dispute form I'd started filling out. Then, he leaned back in his leather chair and folded his hands. "This is fraud," he said simply. "Clear-cut identity theft and forgery. The question is how to prove it and how to proceed." "Can we get the transfer reversed?" I asked. "Eventually, yes, but the process will be slow and expensive. You'll need to provide evidence that you didn't authorize the transfer. Time cards, security footage, witness testimony. Then the county will investigate, which can take months. If they determine the transfer was fraudulent, they'll reverse it. If there's any ambiguity, you might need to go to court." "How much are we talking?" Ellen asked. "If it stays administrative, a few $1,000s. If it goes to litigation, could be 20, 30,000, depending on how long it drags out and whether your son contests the reversal." I felt sick. Why would he contest it if he knows he committed fraud? Bennett gave me a patient look. Because people do strange things when money and property are involved. He might claim you authorized it verbally. He might claim you're suffering from memory issues. He might dig in simply because he doesn't want to lose. What about criminal charges? Ellen asked. Forgery is a crime. It is. But pursuing criminal charges is a separate process, and it doesn't automatically reverse the property transfer. You'd need to file a police report, they'd investigate, the district attorney would decide whether to prosecute. That could take a year or more. Meanwhile, your son legally owns the property. The word legally hit like a punch. Michael legally owned my mother's house because he'd successfully committed fraud. There has to be a faster way, I said. Bennett tapped his fingers on his desk. There is. You could approach your son directly. Explain that you know what he did and give him a chance to reverse it voluntarily. Sign a quitclaim deed back to you. If he agrees, this whole thing goes away in a week. And if he doesn't agree, then you're looking at the long, expensive process I just outlined. We left Bennett's office with a retainer agreement and a sinking feeling. Ellen was quiet on the drive home, staring out the window at the passing traffic. We should talk to him, she said finally. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe he'll do the right thing if we give him the chance. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe my son would feel remorse, would apologize, would make this right. But I kept thinking about that phone call, the casual way he'd suggested I give him the house, the complete absence of guilt in his voice. Let's do it this weekend, I said. Sunday dinner, at their place. Ellen nodded. I'll text Amy. Amy Preston, Michael's wife, mother of my granddaughter Sophie. I'd always liked Amy. She was smart, driven, warm when she wanted to be. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, made good money. They lived well, not extravagantly, but comfortably. So why did they need my mother's house? Friday night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I pulled up the county property records online and looked at Michael's house, purchased 7 years ago for $450,000, current estimated value, $600,000. Mortgage balance. I didn't have access to that, but I could guess. They'd probably refinanced at some point, maybe pulled out equity for renovations. I looked at photos Amy had posted on social media. Their kitchen had been remodeled 2 years ago. New cabinets, granite countertops, professional-grade appliances. Their backyard had a new deck and an in-ground pool that must have cost $60,000 minimum. They were living the life they wanted, but maybe they were also living beyond their means. I checked Amy's social media again, going back through months of posts, family vacations to Disney World, weekend trips to New York, designer handbags, Sophie's travel soccer league, which I knew cost thousands per season. And then I found something interesting, a post from 3 months ago, right around the time Michael must have been planning the forgery. Amy had shared an article about property investment strategies. The caption read, "So excited to finally own something outright, building our future one step at a time." Outright. 3 months ago. I took a screenshot and sent it to Ellen with no comment. She texted back immediately, "What does she mean own something outright? They have a mortgage." Exactly. Unless Amy was talking about something else they owned, something that had been transferred to them free and clear. My mother's house. Saturday, I did something I wasn't proud of. I drove past Michael's house, not to confront him, just to look, to see if anything seemed off, if there were any signs of financial stress. The lawn was perfect. The cars in the driveway were newish. A BMW SUV for Amy, a Tesla for Michael. The house looked immaculate. I parked down the street and watched for a while, feeling like a creep. Michael came out at one point, carrying Sophie's soccer bag. He looked happy, relaxed, like a man without a care in the world, like a man who'd just acquired $400,000 in real estate. I drove away before he could spot me, my jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. Sunday dinner was at 6. Ellen made a pie, apple, Michael's favorite. We showed up on time, acting like nothing was wrong. Amy answered the door with a smile and a hug. Tom, Ellen, come in, come in. Sophie's been asking about you all day. My granddaughter came running from the living room, 7 years old and full of energy. Grandpa, Grandma, did you see my trophy? I got Player of the Week. I hugged her, feeling my heart break a little. Whatever was happening between Michael and me, Sophie was innocent in all of it. That's wonderful, sweetie, I said. I'm so proud of you. Michael appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. Dad, Ellen, glad you could make it. I'm grilling steaks. Hope that's okay. Perfect, Ellen said, her voice warm and natural. She was better at this than I was. I felt like every word out of my mouth was being forced through broken glass. We settled into the familiar routine of family dinner. Michael at the grill, Amy setting the table, Ellen helping while I played with Sophie in the backyard. Everything normal, everything fine. Except it wasn't. Dinner was good. Michael had always been skilled with a grill. The steaks were perfect medium rare, the vegetables had that ideal char. We ate and talked about Sophie's soccer, about Amy's work trip to Chicago next month, about my mother's recent doctor's appointment. How is Mom doing? Michael asked, so casually it almost sounded genuine. I've been meaning to visit her. Good, good. That house must be a lot for her to manage alone. Have you thought about maybe looking into assisted living, or having her move in with you? There it was, the probe, testing to see if I'd been thinking about moving my mother out of the house he now owned. She's not ready for that, I said. She loves that house. It's her home. Of course, of course. I just worry about her, you know? Big house, getting older. What if something happens and she's alone? Amy chimed in. We've actually been talking about that. Maybe she could move in here for a while? We have the space now that we're thinking about expanding. Expanding? Into my mother's house, probably. Ellen's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. That's generous of you, she said smoothly. But I think she's happy where she is. After dinner, Sophie went to watch a movie, and Amy started clearing the dishes. Michael suggested we sit outside, enjoy the evening. He poured expensive scotch into crystal glasses, playing the role of gracious host. We sat on his new deck, looking at his new pool, surrounded by his comfortable life, and I wondered how much of it was built on debt and stolen property. So, Dad, Michael said, swirling his drink. Did you think about what I said? About the house? Here it was. The moment. I did think about it, I said carefully. Actually, I got some interesting mail this week, from the county recorder's office. Michael's expression didn't change, but I saw his fingers tighten on his glass. Oh yeah? What about? Property transfer notification. Said my mother's house had been transferred to you, on my birthday. Silence. The kind that stretched and became heavy. Amy had come outside with a tray of coffee cups, but she stopped when she heard the words. Her eyes flicked to Michael, then back to me. That's strange, Michael said finally. Must be some kind of error. That's what I thought. But when I went to the county office, they confirmed it. Said you filed the paperwork yourself, in person. He took a sip of his scotch, buying time. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been to any county office. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshot of the transfer notification. April 15th, 2:17 p.m., filed by Michael Preston. That's you, right? Amy set the tray down hard. Michael? This is a misunderstanding, he said, but his voice had lost its casual tone. Someone must have stolen my identity. Funny thing about that, I said. The signature on the transfer documents is mine, perfect copy, and the county clerk said you provided proper identification. So either someone stole both our identities and perfectly forged my signature, or you're lying to me right now. Ellen set her coffee down, her eyes on Amy. Did you know about this? Amy's face had gone pale. I don't... Michael, what is he talking about? This is crazy. Michael said, standing up. Dad, I think you're confused. Maybe you should talk to your doctor. The suggestion that I was mentally incompetent, that was new, and it told me everything I needed to know about how far he was willing to go. I'm not confused, I said, staying seated, staying calm. I have the documentation. I've spoken to the county. I've talked to a lawyer. You stole my mother's house, and you did it on my birthday while calling me to wish me well. So cut the bullshit and tell me why. Michael's face flushed. You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. I don't have to explain anything. This is my house, we're having a nice family dinner, and you're making insane accusations. Amy stood up, her voice shaking. Michael, did you do something to Tom's property? Stay out of this, Amy. Did you? She was staring at him, and I saw genuine shock in her eyes. Either she hadn't known, or she was a remarkable actress. Michael set his glass down hard enough that scotch sloshed over the rim. Fine. You want the truth? That house should have been mine years ago. Mom promised it to me when I was in college. Said when she was gone, I'd get it. But then you swooped in and put it in your name, like you don't trust me, like I'm not family. Mom never promised you that house, I said. And I put it in my name to protect it. From creditors, from medical debt. From me? Michael's voice rose. That's what this is really about. You think I'm going to steal from my own grandmother? The irony was so thick I almost laughed. You already did steal from her, and from me. I took what should have been mine. It's not yours. It's my mother's home, and you have no right to it. We were both standing now, facing each other across the deck. Amy had backed away, her hand over her mouth. Ellen stood next to me, solid and quiet. I have every right, Michael said. I'm her grandson. I'm family, and that house is worth a fortune just sitting there while she gets older and doesn't even appreciate it. So this is about money. It's about what's fair. You and Mom had your whole lives to build something. My generation doesn't get those chances. You know what houses cost now? What it takes to give your kid a good life? I'm drowning in debt trying to maintain a lifestyle that looks successful, and you're sitting on $500,000 in real estate you don't even need. There it was. The truth. Ugly and raw. So you forged my signature and stole it, I said. I corrected an injustice. You committed a crime. Michael laughed, harsh and bitter. Good luck proving that, Dad. The county accepted the transfer. It's legal. It's done. And unless you want to drag this through court for years and spend everything you have on lawyers, you're going to have to accept it. Amy's voice was small. Michael, you told me the house was a gift. You said Tom wanted to help us. He turned on her. I told you what you needed to hear. You lied to me? I protected our family. By lying? By stealing? By doing what I had to do. I watched them argue, watched my son's mask slip completely away. This wasn't a good man who'd made a desperate choice. This was someone who'd been planning this for months, maybe years. Someone who felt entitled to take what he wanted. Ellen touched my arm gently. We should go. She was right. This wasn't going to be resolved tonight, and the longer we stayed, the more likely this was going to turn into something worse. We're leaving, I said, cutting through Michael and Amy's argument. But this isn't over. Michael's face twisted into something I barely recognized. Yeah? What are you going to do, Dad? Sue me? Go ahead. Spend your retirement fund fighting me in court. I can wait it out. Can you? I looked at my son, this person I'd raised, coached in Little League, taught to drive, helped through college, and felt something inside me go very still and very cold. You'll find out, I said. We left. Sophie called goodbye from the living room, oblivious to what had just happened. I waved to her, keeping my face neutral, and walked out of that house knowing everything had changed. In the car, Ellen was quiet for a long time. Then she said, He planned this. The debt, the lifestyle, the timing, all of it. Yeah. What are you going to do? I thought about Bennett's advice. 60 to 90 days, 20 to 30,000 in legal fees, years of fighting maybe, or something else. I don't know yet, I said. But he's wrong about one thing. What's that? This isn't over. It's just beginning. We drove home through the darkness, and I started planning. The call came from Danny Reeves, a guy I'd worked with 15 years ago, before he moved into private investigation. We'd stayed in touch, nothing close, just the occasional beer and baseball game. But he owed me a favor from way back, and I was calling it in. You want me to look into your son? Danny had asked when I called him Wednesday night. Just financial stuff, anything public record, debts, liens, judgments, whatever you can find. This about the house thing you mentioned? Yeah. Give me 24 hours. He called back Thursday at 11 p.m., just as I was getting ready for bed. Ellen was already asleep. I took the call in my office, closing the door quietly. Tom, I found some things, Danny said. You're not going to like it. Tell me. Your son's in deeper than you probably realize. The credit cards and HELOC you know about. But there's more. He's got 3 personal loans from online lenders, high interest short term, totaling about $40,000. I sat down. Jesus. When did he take those out? 2 in March, 1 in February. He's been spiraling for months. What else? There's a default judgment against him from last year, a business deal that went bad. He owes $32,000 to a former partner who sued him, garnishment order on his wages, but he's been dodging it somehow. How do you dodge a wage garnishment? You get paid under the table, or you work freelance, or you have your employer classify you as a contractor. I don't know which he's doing, but the creditor filed a motion to hold him in contempt last month. My head was spinning. Is there more? One more thing. Your son incorporated an LLC 6 months ago. Preston Property Holdings. Listed address is your mother's house. He what? Created a company, filed with the state. I pulled the documents. The purpose listed is real estate investment and property management. Only listed asset is the Maple Street property. He was planning to use Mom's house as a business asset. Looks like it. Probably for tax advantages, maybe to shield it from personal creditors. Smart move, actually, if the property was legitimately his. It wasn't. I know. But on paper it looked clean. Until your hearing today. I rubbed my eyes, exhausted. Send me everything you found. Already done. Check your email. Tom, your son's in serious trouble. Even if he gives back the house, he's still drowning. I'd give him 6 months before bankruptcy. That's his problem. Fair enough. But just be prepared. When people get this desperate, they do desperate things. I thanked Danny and hung up. My email pinged a moment later, his full report, 20 pages of financial documentation. I spent an hour reading through it all. The picture was even worse than Amy's documents had shown. Michael wasn't just in debt. He was being pursued by multiple creditors, facing legal action, operating on the edge of financial collapse. The house wasn't just a theft of opportunity, it was his life raft, and I'd just cut the rope. Friday morning, I forwarded everything to Bennett. He called me an hour later. This is useful, he said. Shows clear motive for fraud. But Tom, I have to ask, what are you planning to do with this? What do you mean? I mean you've got your son over a barrel. The criminal investigation, the frozen property, now this evidence of financial desperation. You could destroy him if you wanted to. He destroyed himself. Maybe. But there's a difference between holding him accountable and crushing him completely. I need to know which one you're after. I thought about that. What did I want? The house back. That was non-negotiable. Michael punished. Also non-negotiable. But did I want him bankrupt? In prison? His life completely ruined? I want justice, I said finally. I want the house returned and I want him to face consequences. but I don't want to destroy Sophie's life in the process. Then we need to think strategically. The DA hasn't charged him yet. If we can get him to reverse the transfer and make restitution before charges are filed, we might be able to negotiate a better outcome. How much time do we have? Not much. The DA's office moves slow, but with this much evidence, they could file within a month. So we pressure him now. Make him an offer he can't refuse. What kind of offer? I thought about it. He reverses the transfer immediately, returns the house to my name, makes a public apology to my mother, pays my legal fees. In exchange, I don't push for maximum criminal charges. He'll never agree to the apology part. Then he doesn't get the deal. Bennett was quiet for a moment. You want to humiliate him. I want him to acknowledge what he did, to his grandmother's face. That's not about justice. That's about revenge. Maybe it's both. Another pause. Okay, I'll draft the proposal, but Tom, if he doesn't take it, are you prepared to go all the way? Criminal trial, potential prison time, family destruction? Yes, I said without hesitation. All right, I'll reach out to Peterson today. That afternoon, while I was at work trying to pretend everything was normal, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Dad. Michael's voice, rough and tired. What do you want? We need to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just give me an hour. There's a lot you don't understand. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Michael was already there when I arrived, sitting in a back corner booth looking like he hadn't slept in days. I sat down across from him without ordering anything. Talk, I said. He looked at his coffee cup, not at me. I'm sorry for all of it. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. Sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? Both. I don't know. He finally looked up. I was desperate, Dad. I know that's not an excuse, but you need to understand where I was. Danny Reeves gave me a pretty clear picture of where you were. His face went pale. You investigated me? You stole from me. I wanted to know why. He slumped back in the booth. So you know about the loans, the judgments, all of it. All of it. Then you know I was drowning, am drowning. The house was supposed to fix everything. Give me collateral, let me consolidate, start over. By stealing from your grandmother. I was going to take care of her, that was the plan. She could have stayed there as long as she wanted. I just needed the asset on paper. And when the bank called the HELOC due, when you needed to sell to cover your debts, what then? He didn't have an answer. You never thought that far ahead, did you? I said. You just saw a solution to your immediate problem and took it without thinking about the consequences. I had no choice. You had plenty of choices. You could have asked for help. You could have declared bankruptcy. You could have cut your spending and dealt with your debt honestly. Instead, you chose fraud. Because asking for help means admitting I failed. Do you know how that feels? To be 32 years old and have to tell your father you can't manage your own life? So pride. This was all about pride. It was about survival. His voice had risen. Other customers were looking at us. He noticed and lowered his voice. Dad, I'm asking you to help me. Work with me. We can find a solution that doesn't destroy everything. There is a solution. It's simple. You reverse the transfer, return the house, pay my legal fees, and apologize to your grandmother. In exchange, I'll advocate for leniency with the DA. Apologize to Grandma? You want to humiliate me? I want you to take responsibility. I can't afford your legal fees. I can barely make rent. That's not my problem anymore. He stared at me, something hard forming in his expression. You really want to do this? Destroy your own son over a house? You really want to justify stealing from your own grandmother? We sat in silence for a moment. Then Michael leaned forward, his voice dropping to something almost threatening. You think you've won. The hearing, the judge, all of it. But Dad, I've got options you haven't thought of. Like what? Like appealing. Like dragging this out for years. Like making this so expensive and painful that you'll wish you'd just let me keep the house. I felt that cold stillness settle over me again. Is that a threat? It's reality. Peterson says we can fight the fraud charges, claim diminished capacity on your part, family understanding, all kinds of defenses. Even if we lose eventually, it'll cost you a fortune in legal fees. I'll spend whatever it takes. Will you? Because Peterson's retainer is already $20,000. This could go to 50, 60, 100,000 before it's done. You want to spend your retirement fund fighting me? I stood up. We're done here. Dad, wait. No. You had a chance to make this right. You chose threats instead. So now we do this the hard way. I walked out of the coffee shop, my hands shaking with anger. Michael had gone from apologetic to threatening in 5 minutes. He wasn't sorry. He was cornered, and cornered animals bite. I called Bennett from my car. The deal's off. He's not taking it. What happened? I told him about the conversation. Bennett sighed. Okay. Then we prepare for war. I'll notify the DA's office that negotiations failed. They'll probably accelerate the investigation. Good. Tom, this is going to get ugly. Are you sure? I thought about Michael's face when he threatened me. Thought about the fake ID, the forged signature, the months of planning. Thought about my mother's house and 40 years of her sacrifice. I'm sure, I said. That weekend was tense. Ellen and I went through all our finances, calculating how much we could afford for legal fees if this dragged out. We had savings, some investments. We could handle it. Barely. Sunday evening, I got a text from Amy. Michael's acting strange, paranoid. I'm worried about what he might do. I called her. What do you mean strange? He's been in the garage for hours. Won't tell me what he's doing. He made me promise not to let you near the house. Tom, I'm scared. Where's Sophie? At my sister's. I didn't want her here for whatever this is. Good. Stay alert. If he does anything threatening, call the police. You think he'd hurt someone? I thought about the Michael I knew versus the Michael who'd forged documents and created fake IDs. I don't know what he's capable of anymore. She hung up, sounding frightened. I told Ellen about the conversation. Maybe we should check on him, she said. And do what? He made it clear he doesn't want to talk to me. But if he's unstable, then Amy should call the police, not us. We go over there, it just escalates things. Ellen didn't look convinced, but she nodded. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Michael might be planning. Peterson had mentioned appeals, long legal battles. But what if Michael was thinking more extreme? Around 2 a.m., my phone rang. The county fire department. Mr. Preston? This is Fire Chief Williams. We're at 847 Maple Street, your mother's property. There's been an incident. My heart stopped. What kind of incident? A fire. Small one. Contained to the garage. We've got it under control. But we need you to come down here. I was out of bed and dressed in 2 minutes. Ellen insisted on coming with me. We drove to my mother's house with a sick feeling in my stomachs. The street was full of emergency vehicles, lights flashing. The garage was blackened, smoke still rising. Firefighters were rolling up hoses. My mother stood on the front lawn in her bathrobe, looking shocked. I ran to her. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. I woke up to smoke, called 911. The firefighters got here fast. Chief Williams came over. Mr. Preston? We need to talk. He led me away from my mother toward the garage. Ellen stayed with Mom. This wasn't an accident, Williams said quietly. Someone deliberately set this fire. Used gasoline, probably. You can see the pour pattern here. He pointed to scorch marks on the concrete, clear lines where accelerant had been poured. Arson, I said. Yes, sir. We've called the police. They'll investigate, but I wanted you to see this first. Any idea who might have done this? I knew. God help me, I knew exactly who. My son, I said. Michael Preston. We're in a legal dispute over this property. Williams nodded grimly. Police will want to talk to you. To him too, probably. The police arrived within minutes. I gave a statement, explained the whole situation, the fraud, the hearing, Michael's threats. They took notes, asked questions. We'll need to interview your son, the detective said. Where can we find him? I gave them Michael's address. They left in their patrol cars, lights on. Ellen came over with my mother. Tom, what's happening? Michael burned down Mom's garage. My mother gasped. Michael? No, he wouldn't. He did, Mom. He's desperate and he's lashing out. We stayed at the house until dawn, waiting for news. The detective called at 6 a.m. We went to your son's residence. He's not there. His wife says she hasn't seen him since last night. His car's gone. We've issued a BOLO. A be on the lookout? Yes, sir. He's wanted for questioning in connection with arson. If he contacts you, call us immediately. I hung up and looked at Ellen. He ran. Where would he go? I don't know, but he just made this 100 times worse. By Monday morning, Michael's face was on the news. Local man wanted for questioning in arson case. The story included details about the property dispute, painting him as an unstable fraud suspect who'd escalated to violence. Amy called, hysterical. This can't be happening. This can't be real. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Whatever Michael had done, Amy and Sophie didn't deserve this. Where is he, Tom? Do you know? No, but when they find him, he's going to prison for a long time. She started crying. I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed on the line until she hung up. Bennett called an hour later. The DA fast-tracked the fraud charges. With the arson, Michael's looking at serious prison time, multiple felonies. How long? If convicted on all counts, 10 to 15 years possibly. I should have felt satisfied, victorious. But instead, I just felt tired. What about the house? I asked. With Michael a fugitive, the DA's office is moving to expedite the property transfer reversal. Should be done within a week. Good. Tom, are you okay? Was I? My son was a fugitive. My mother's garage was destroyed. My family was shattered. But the house would be returned. Justice would be served. I will be, I said. The next 48 hours were a media circus. Reporters camped outside my house wanting statements. I ignored them all. Michael remained missing. Police checked his credit cards, his phone records, his known associates. Nothing. Then, Wednesday afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Meet me? Alone? I'll explain everything. Industrial Park on Route 9. Building 7. 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone or I disappear forever. Michael. I showed the text to Ellen. You're not going. I have to. It could be a trap. He could be dangerous. Or he could be ready to surrender. Either way, I need to know. Then I'm coming with you. He said alone. I don't care what he said. We argued for an hour. Finally, we compromised. I'd go, but Ellen would wait outside in the car. If I wasn't out in 30 minutes, she'd call the police. At 7:45, we drove to the industrial park. It was mostly abandoned, old warehouses, half-empty parking lots. Building 7 was at the far end, dark and isolated. I don't like this, Ellen said. Me neither, but I'm going. I kissed her and got out of the car. The building's door was unlocked. Inside was dark, smelling of old concrete and rust. I used my phone's flashlight to navigate. Michael? I called out. Back here. His voice, from deeper in the building. I found him in what used to be an office space. He was sitting on the floor, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Unshaven, dirty clothes, wild eyes. Thanks for coming, he said. The police are looking for you. I know. I've been watching the news. Why did you do it? The garage. I didn't. His voice was desperate. Dad, you have to believe me. I didn't set that fire. The pour pattern. I know how it looks, but I swear it wasn't me. I was home that night. Amy can verify. Amy says she hasn't seen you. Because I left Tuesday morning, after I heard about the fire. I knew everyone would blame me. I panicked and ran. I studied his face, trying to see if he was lying, but he looked genuinely terrified. If you didn't set the fire, who did? I don't know. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe someone else. He stopped, his eyes widening. Wait, the LLC. What about it? When I set up Preston Property Holdings, I had to name a registered agent, someone to receive legal documents. Who did you name? Amy's brother, Derek. He's been helping me with some of the financial stuff. I didn't know Derek well. Amy's younger brother worked in construction, always seemed nice enough. Why would Derek set the fire? I asked. I don't know. But Dad, he knew about everything. The transfer, the HELOC, all of it. And he's been acting weird lately, asking questions about the property value, about insurance. Insurance. Oh God, I said. If someone burned down my mother's house, the insurance payout would be substantial. And if the property was still technically in Michael's name. You think Derek was trying to cash in on insurance fraud? It's the only thing that makes sense. But I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. Wait, Dad, if I turn myself in now, they'll charge me with the arson. I need to prove it was Derek first. How? Help me. Please. Just give me 24 hours to find evidence. Then I'll surrender. I looked at my son, dirty and desperate, asking for help after everything he'd done. Every instinct said to call the police right now. Let them sort it out. But what if he was telling the truth? One condition, I said. You sign a quitclaim deed right now, return the house to me. Do that, and I'll give you 24 hours. He hesitated, then nodded. I don't have the paperwork here. Then we go get it. Together. And you don't leave my sight until this is resolved. We drove to a 24-hour FedEx office, Michael in my passenger seat while Ellen followed in her car. He was jumpy, checking mirrors constantly, convinced the police would spot us any moment. Calm down, I said. You look guilty when you act like that. I am guilty. Just not of arson. He had a point. At FedEx, we used their computers to pull up a quitclaim deed template. Michael filled it out with shaking hands, transferring 847 Maple Street from himself back to me. We printed it, got it notarized by the night clerk, who gave us suspicious looks but did her job, and made copies. There, Michael said. It's yours again. I folded the document carefully and put it in my jacket pocket. Now we find Derek. He's probably at home. He lives in Riverside, about 20 minutes from here. I called Bennett, told him what was happening. He was not pleased. You're harboring a fugitive, Tom. If the police find out, 24 hours, that's all I'm giving him. This is a bad idea. Probably, but it's my decision. I hung up before he could argue further. We drove to Riverside, a working-class neighborhood on the south side of town. Derek lived in a small house with a chain-link fence and a yard full of construction equipment. That's his truck, Michael said, pointing to a beat-up Ford in the driveway. We can't just knock on his door. Why not? Because if he did set the fire, he's dangerous. And if he didn't, we're about to accuse him of a felony with no evidence. Michael thought about it. What if we just watch? See if he does anything suspicious? So we did. We parked down the street, lights off, and waited. Ellen was in her car behind us, probably thinking we'd all lost our minds. At 9:47 p.m., Derek came out of his house. He was carrying a duffel bag, moving quickly, looking around nervously. He threw the bag in his truck and drove off. Follow him, Michael said. You think this is a good idea? You said we need evidence. Let's get evidence. Against my better judgment, I followed Derek's truck. He drove for about 15 minutes, heading out toward the industrial area near the airport. Old warehouses, storage facilities. Not many people around this time of night. Derek pulled into a storage facility called Secure Space. He punched in a code at the gate and drove through. Does he have a storage unit? I asked. I don't know. Amy never mentioned it. I parked outside the facility fence. We could see Derek's truck stopped in front of Unit 247. He got out, opened the roll-up door, and started unloading the duffel bag. "I need to see what's in there," Michael said. "You can't just break in." "I'm not breaking in. I'm investigating my brother-in-law." Before I could stop him, Michael was out of the car and climbing the fence. I cursed and followed, Ellen hissing at us from her car to stop being idiots. We dropped down inside the facility and moved quietly toward Unit 247. Derek had his back to us, focused on organizing items inside the unit. From our angle, we could see metal gas cans, rope, what looked like construction gloves. Michael pulled out his phone and started recording video. Derek turned suddenly, like he sensed something. He saw us. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Derek bolted, not toward us, toward his truck. "Stop!" Michael yelled, running after him. I followed, less out of strategy and more because I couldn't let Michael do this alone. Derek reached his truck and jumped in, engine roaring to life. Michael grabbed the driver's side door, yanking it open. "What did you do? What did you do to Grandma's house?" Derek threw the truck in reverse, door still open, Michael hanging on. The truck lurched backward and Michael lost his grip, falling hard onto the pavement. I ran to him while Derek sped away, tires squealing. "You okay?" I asked. Michael groaned, clutching his shoulder. "I got it. I got him on video." Ellen ran up, phone in hand. "I called the police. They're on their way." Great. Now we'd be explaining to cops why we were trespassing in a storage facility. The police arrived in minutes. We showed them the video on Michael's phone, Derek's storage unit with gas cans and suspicious materials. We explained the arson investigation, the property fraud, everything. The detective in charge, a woman named Harris, listened with increasing skepticism. "So you, a wanted fugitive," she pointed at Michael, "and you, the alleged victim," pointing at me, "decided to conduct your own investigation by trespassing on private property?" "It's not as bad as it sounds," I said. "It sounds pretty bad." She made some calls. Other officers went to check the storage unit. 20 minutes later, they came back with evidence bags containing gas cans, rags, a container of accelerant. "There's also paperwork in there," one officer said. "Insurance documents for 847 Maple Street. Policyholder listed as Michael Preston, beneficiary listed as Derek Collins." Michael's face went pale. "What? I never signed that?" Harris looked at the documents. "Is this your signature?" Michael studied it. "It looks like mine, but... oh, God. He did the same thing I did to Dad. He forged my signature." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "We'll need to bring Derek Collins in for questioning," Harris said. She looked at Michael. "And you need to come with us, too. You're still wanted." "I know. I'm ready to surrender. But you see now, right? I didn't set the fire. Derek did." Harris didn't commit to anything, but I could see her expression shift slightly. We weren't crazy. There was something here. At the police station, Michael gave his statement. I gave mine. Ellen gave hers. We were there until 3 a.m., going over every detail. They caught Derek at 4:15 a.m. trying to cross into Pennsylvania. He had $50,000 in cash in his truck and a fake ID. Under questioning, he broke quickly. Admitted to setting the fire, explained his plan to collect insurance money and split it with Michael, except Michael didn't know about the plan. Derek had forged the insurance documents himself, planning to collect the payout and disappear. "Your son's an idiot," Derek told the police, "but he's not evil. I'm the one who saw the opportunity. House in legal limbo, insurance still active, nobody watching closely. Easy money that got him charged with arson, insurance fraud, attempted fraud, and forgery." By Thursday morning, the story had shifted. News reports changed from fugitive fraud suspect to son helps catch real arsonist. Michael was still facing the original fraud charges, but the arson was off the table. Amy came to the police station when they released Michael on bail, which I had to post, adding insult to injury. She hugged him, crying, relief and anger mixing together. You're an idiot, she said. I know. But you're not an arsonist. No. They left together, Amy practically holding him up. He looked broken, exhausted, but alive. Bennett called me at noon. The quitclaim deed you got is valid. I've filed it with the county. The house is officially back in your name. What about the HELOC? Bank's problem now. They're going after Michael for the balance, but that's between them and him. And the DA? They're still prosecuting Michael for the original fraud. But with his cooperation in the arson investigation and the property returned, they're offering a plea deal. Probation, restitution, community service, no jail time. I thought about that. Michael would lose the house, lose his financial stability, probably lose his marriage. But he wouldn't go to prison. Sophie would still have a father. Tell them I'm okay with that, I said. You sure? After everything he put you through? He's still my son, and he helped catch Derek. That counts for something. Bennett said he'd work with the DA's office and hung up. I drove to my mother's house. The garage was a burned-out shell, but the house itself was fine. Mom was in the kitchen making tea. It's over? She asked. It's over. The house is back in my name. Michael's facing consequences, but not prison. Derek's going to jail. She poured 2 cups and sat down across from me. I'm glad. Not happy. This whole thing is a tragedy. But glad it's resolved. Me too. We drank tea in silence for a while. Then she said, What are you going to do about Michael? What do you mean? He's your son. He did wrong, but he's still family. Are you going to forgive him? I thought about the past few weeks. The anger, the betrayal, the fear. The moment in that industrial building when I could have turned him in but chose to give him a chance instead. Eventually, I said, but not today. That's fair. I stayed with her for lunch, helped her start planning the garage rebuild. We talked about normal things, her garden, my work, Ellen's book club. It felt good to talk about something normal again. As I was leaving, she hugged me tight. Thank you, Tommy, for protecting my home. Always, Mom. That evening, Ellen and I sat on our back porch, watching the sunset. We'd been through hell, but we'd come out the other side. What happens next? She asked. We rebuild, Mom's garage, our relationship with Michael, all of it. You think you can forgive him? I thought about my son's face when he was clinging to Derek's truck, desperate to prove his innocence. Thought about him signing that quit-claim deed with shaking hands. Thought about all the years before this, when he was just my kid, learning to ride a bike and playing catch in the backyard. Yeah, I said. Eventually. But he's got a long road ahead of him first. Ellen took my hand. So do we all. Friday, Michael came to our house. Amy and Sophie were with him. Sophie ran to hug Ellen and me, oblivious to everything that had happened. Michael stood awkwardly in our living room, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. I came to apologize, he said. Really apologize. Not the half-hearted stuff from before. Okay. I was wrong. About everything. The house, the lying, the forgery. I justified it to myself because I was desperate, but that doesn't make it right. I stole from my own grandmother. I betrayed your trust. I risked my family's future for short-term gain. He took a shaky breath. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this right. I don't know how yet, but I will. I looked at him, really looked at him. He was sincere, broken, but sincere. Here's how you make it right, I said. You take the plea deal. You do the community service. You pay back every penny you owe, however long it takes. You get actual help for whatever drove you to this. Therapy, financial counseling, whatever you need. And you raise Sophie to be better than this. I will, I promise. And you apologize to your grandmother. In person. Today. He nodded. I was hoping you'd take me to see her. So we all went to Mom's house. Sophie played in the garden while Michael sat down with his grandmother and told her everything. I couldn't hear all of it, but I saw her face. Shock, hurt, anger, then slowly softening. When he finished, she was quiet for a long